But my main focus there was driving revenue growth, but also because it's a hospitality industry, it was delivering this 5-star guest experience, even though I was on the sales side.
As I stated in the beginning, when I got into this industry, this didn't exist. So we were doing everything on spreadsheets and whiteboards, extremely time consuming, which, because it was so time consuming.
I mean, we have clients with 1 listing to 1,000, and we've also built integrations with over 100 partners. So if you check out our integration zone on hostfully.com on our website, you're going to see the range from dynamic pricing tools, smart locks, cleaning, account tools. Now, these partnerships
come into a relationship with certain expectations, and those expectations aren't necessarily met. That's why the people have issues, right? The same applies to customer service. A customer goes into a short-term rental with a certain type of expectation.
Stuck at zero with your short-term rental? Watch Sarah go from overwhelmed host to marketing pro in 60 seconds. Meet Sarah, drowning in a sea of confusing marketing tactics. But everything changes when she discovers from zero to pro. She masters SEO, skyrocketing her visibility online. Social media becomes her secret weapon, turning scrollers into guests. Email marketing? Automated and personalized, working while she sleeps. With her own booking site, Sarah waves goodbye to hefty OTA fees. Sarah's not just growing, she's scaling, from one rental to an empire. Now Sarah's not just a host, she's a digital marketing pro with a thriving business. Ready for your zero to hero story? Get from zero to pro today and scale your rental empire.
Welcome back, my beautiful people. Today's episode, we're going to be focusing in on leveraging technology and strategic partnership. And today's guest is his name says that all. He is a true boss in this sector. His name is Frank Bosi. Frank, welcome to the show. Tell us who you are and what you're about.
Hey, Fernando, how are you? So I'm Frank Bosi. I am the Senior Director of Partner Development here at Hostfully. So I've been with Hostfully for 5 years this upcoming September. Worked as an account executive, managed a team, worked my way up, and it's been a phenomenal 5 years. So now I get to work with people like you. How blessed am I? Yeah.
Amen to that, brother. It's interesting because you've been with Hostfully. I think as long as I think I signed up with Hostfully 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago.
I think 4.
Yeah, 4 years ago. So right at the beginning, I mean, there were a baby company when I came on board. So you've seen the growth, and I'm excited to really talk a little bit more about that. Because I people that watch the show know I am a big fan of not only every short-term rental operator having a PMS system, but more importantly, of having Hostfully as their PMS system. I think it's one of the easiest PMS system to use, and you get more bang for your buck with Hostfully. That's my plug real quick. I'm a big fan. So let's dive a little deeper into your journey. What did you do before coming on to Hostfully?
So my background has always been in hospitality. So I spent years working with luxury hotel brands, specifically the Trump Hotel Collection, Four Seasons, Starwood, the Marriott, but the luxury collection on Marriott side. But my main focus there was driving revenue growth, but also because it's a hospitality industry, it was delivering this 5-star guest experience, even though I was on the sales side. I do remember one time we went to a conference. It was called it still is called the GBTA conference. It's the biggest conference in the hotel industry, and that's where I first learned about Airbnb. I was at this hospitality conference, and it just opened my eyes to how technology is now starting to reshape the way that people travel, but also the way that they're booking accommodations. So I was in the industry for about 10 years, right out of college. guest service representative, front desk agent, sales operator or coordinator, into sales manager, into sales director. Like, it was a good career growth.
Nice.
Yeah, it was awesome. And I loved it. Then during COVID, like many others in the hospitality industry, I was laid off. And that became a huge turning point for me personally, but also professionally in my career. I started looking mainly at companies that aligned with my values, specifically around hospitality. And I knew because of COVID, the hospitality industry wasn't going to work. But thinking outside the box, I do remember short-term rentals, Airbnb. I wanted to find a company that was focused around innovation, but also at the same time, just creating this meaningful guest experience. And that's when I found Hostfully. So our mission here at Hostfully is to make the most out of every stay. So along with our focus on automation, that we have a huge sustainability practice and really focusing on like strategic, smart integrations, Hostfully just spoke to me. And it still is technically a startup, but when I joined, there were a handful of us. So I knew that I had a lot of flexibility and opportunity to grow the software as well, and to teach everyone about it. And it felt like a perfect fit, again, both professionally and personally.
How did you find Hostfully?
So it has a different name now, but it was called angel.com or angel.co. I forget, but long story short, years prior, my wife was looking for a job. And she used this website. And then I did like LinkedIn. I did all those like recruitment websites, and nothing was really happening. And my wife was like, "Why don't you try?" And I think it's angel.co. And I did, and I was on there, and I saw a bunch of opportunities. But what was really nice about this was they show you the job description, and you can apply, but then you also have the opportunity to contact the decision maker, which at that time was our CEO, Margot. For a quick, she reached out saying she's interested in meeting me. And then I met with Pedro, who's now our chief revenue officer. I met with David, who's our co-founder and president, as well as Margot. So it kind of just, the stars aligned and everything just worked out really well. It felt like the perfect fit. So I think because it felt like the perfect fit to me when I was interviewing, it was just that much more organic, and conversation flowed, and all of our personalities meshed really well. So you could kind of see how it all worked out. It was pretty nifty.
Yeah. And being on this side of the house, I've, like I said, I've seen the growth. I've seen a lot of the new developments that Hostfully has implemented throughout the years. So yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, it's interesting because I found Hostfully through going to a STR event, and you guys had a small booth there, and that's how I got into.
You remember which one it was?
It was in Europe. I know that.
Oh yeah, no, I wasn't there.
Yeah, it was in Europe. It was in I can't remember if it was Spain or Portugal.
Sweet.
Yeah. But anyway, that's when I first saw Hostfully, and I was like, "Oh, this is pretty interesting."
Yeah.
And then, but for those that don't know what Hostfully is, briefly describe what is Hostfully and how it helps STR owners and managers.
I could try to keep it short, but there's a lot with Hostfully.
There's a lot.
There's a lot, especially we're growing and all. But Hostfully is, for those that don't know, an all-in-one platform, really designed to help short-term rental managers save time, increase bookings, and also easily scale your business. At Hostfully's core, really, we offer a powerful property management software that really takes care of the heavy listings, like with all things like automating guest communication, syncing calendars across all the OTAs like Airbnb, Vrbo, Booking.com. The software handles payments. We have reporting, a unified inbox to communicate with guests between channels. There's so much more. But what really sets us apart is how we're constantly evolving. And not just evolving at our own pace, but we're evolving alongside the short-term rental industry. We're not just, kind of keeping up and trying to catch our breath. We're actually staying ahead, and we're always focused on innovation and how we can better help our customers grow. That's the property management software, but alongside with the property management software, Hostfully also has an award-winning digital guidebook. And the digital guidebooks are a game changer. I mean, when it comes to guest experience specifically. So not only do the guidebooks make a property manager's operation smoother specifically, but they also give your guest everything they need to enhance their stay, but also get you a 5-star review from check-in or even pre-check-in to checkout and post-checkout, post-departure.
Yeah, it's I've said the story probably a million times on numerous shows throughout the years, but it's interesting because when I got into this business, PMS systems didn't exist. So having a need, because we would do everything on spreadsheets. In fact, we had a whiteboard, a big whiteboard with the properties. I mean, it was a very manual, tedious experience. And having a little bit of knowledge in the tech aspect of the world, tech world, because my brother's a coder and he's worked on that side. I wanted a PMS system, and I paid a lot of freaking money to have one built. It did everything I needed, but it was very, very difficult to teach someone else. So, and in this industry, there's a lot of turnover, and it would take me months to retrain someone in the system. And make a long story short, that system that was created by the owners and founders of a company that has since been bought out by Guesty, but it was a company called Kigo. Mm-hmm. And they built that system for me. And they decided to launch off. And like I said, it spun off. But when I found Hostfully, my very first question was, how user-friendly is that? I don't need, because I told him, I said, I have a system that has all the bells and whistles, but it's so freaking complicated that I can't train people on it. And they're like, well, we don't have all the bells and whistles, but it's a simple system. And I'm like, that's all I need. Let's sign up.
Yep. Yeah, and that's exactly it. We have a really clean, easy UI. And then I'll talk a little bit more about it a bit later, but we have a wonderful onboarding team. So the second you sign up for Hostfully, you get a dedicated real life onboarding manager that's there. They're going to make sure your foundation is strong, your skeleton is in place. This way, when you're ready to go live, you're set for success. And then we also have customer service, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. We'll keep you anticipating.
Yeah. So let's answer one very important question, right? That I think a lot of people need an answer to. What problem does Hostfully solve?
It's a lot. That's an open-ended question. We solve a lot of problems. It really depends on what the property management software or what the property manager is looking for specifically. So Hostfully is not, depending on who's going to demo us and look at us and meet with us, we're not going to solve everyone's problems. There's not one software in the industry that will solve everyone's problems. But there is, I would say a real focus is, and I can guarantee our automation is key. And realizing once you're using a software similar to Hostfully, how much time automation can save you once you get it all set up, which I spoke about with the onboarding and the customer service and the 24-hour service and 7 days a week that we offer, but specifically with like guest messaging and check-in instructions. And then there's also our guidebooks, which sets us apart from a lot of the softwares out there, because not only do we have a property management software, but we have our digital guidebooks. And the guidebooks really cut down on repetitive questions, which makes the guests happier, and it just frees up more time. There's the automation, the communication. My favorite feature that we have is our multi-unit calendar. So with our multi-unit calendar, when it's during demos, it's super fun and cool when I see a property manager, when I see their face the first time that they see our calendar, and all of their operations synced into one place. And that is like, which channel the reservation came from, specific reservation information, just all in one place. It's a real game changer for people that are managing across multiple platforms. And again, with our integrations, we integrate with over 100 softwares. So we make every effort to ensure that you can build a tech stack using Hostfully's open API. Similar to our UI, we have one of the strongest APIs in the industry, which means software communicates really well with our software.
Yeah, I'm gonna. There's a couple of things that I want to touch on that you mentioned, and I want to make sure the audience captures. And he mentioned it a couple of times in his answer. Time. I think that is the biggest problem that Hostfully solves. Right? It gives back time to you, the short-term rental manager or operator. As I stated in the beginning, when I got into this industry, this didn't exist. So we were doing everything on spreadsheets and whiteboards, extremely time consuming, which, because it was so time consuming, made it difficult to really scale and scale quickly, as quickly as I wanted to at the time. But when I got Hostfully, it gave me all the time that I needed to scale, right? So that's a big one for me. That was the big one, a problem that it solved for me as a owner and founder of a property management company. But the second thing was that I think it solved and did a great job was and he touched on it in and of itself, it's automation, but automation through communication. Because I think the communication component it's another big problem solver that Hostfully solves it, because it allows you to communicate with your guest instantly. Back in the day when none of this stuff existed, if I had an inquiry come in at 2 a.m, no one was responding. Right? There was no answer until somebody came to the office the next day. Today, that's not the case. Today, with the integration of AI, automatic messages system that we have, we get an inquiry, they get an instant response. And that, one of the biggest things as from the sales component is that when someone sends an inquiry, they're not just sending an inquiry to you. They're looking at multiple properties. So the first person that gets back to that potential guest, chances are, and statistics tells us, that you're going to get that booking over someone that doesn't respond right away. So for me, those are the two biggest problem-solving component of Hostfully. But you also talked about integration, and I want to dive deep into integration. And the reason I want to dive deep into integration is because, and I know people watching are saying, "Oh, Fernando, you're being a homer because you're loving on Hostfully," but I'm loving on it for a good reason, and I need you guys to understand this component, right? One of the things that from the very beginning with Hostfully was they did not try to be the be-all and all of PMS systems. They wanted to be very, very good at certain things and integrate with other companies that were very, very good at other things. So can you expand on that?
Yes. So that's the one thing I always say when someone's like, oh, what sets you apart from this software? Or what makes you the best in the industry? There is not one property management software that is going to be the best for every single property manager. Every property management software has different features and capabilities that are going to speak to that property manager. Now, what we do at Hostfully that's really great is the innovation and just thinking ahead. So with Hostfully, as I mentioned, we have over 100 integrations. So we have partners with one listing, and we have clients with one listing to 1,000, and we've also built integrations with over 100 partners. So if you check out our integration zone on hostfully.com on our website, you're going to see the range from dynamic pricing tools, smart locks, cleaning, account tools. Now these partnerships, they really let us extend the power of the platform without making users constantly jump in between systems or like reinvent their existing workflows. But beyond the tech, it's also about building relationships with those partners to communicate. So now let's say there's a software, and that software, property management software, they say, we do property management, we do channel management. Not only that, but we also do dynamic pricing and cleaning and turnover. In a property management software, that could be good. But with Hostfully, we kind of take the approach differently, where we're not going to even try to be a Price Labs. We're not going to try to be a Wheelhouse. We're going to do what Hostfully does best, and we're going to leverage our open API and our strong API to integrate with those integrations to make it feel as though it's part of Hostfully with such a strong integration. So for example, you have Hostfully, you have a dynamic pricing tool, you have a cleaning and turnover management, you have guest screening. All of that combined within Hostfully, there's added costs to each software. So we're priced significantly less than our competitors because we have the understanding that you're going to need a dynamic pricing tool. You're going to need another software. So we take that into consideration with our clients as well. And then with that, all the integrations to connect with us are free. So if you have Hostfully and you have a dynamic pricing tool, you connect those two, it works as though it's part of our software. So you can get a pretty impressive tech stack together where you can automate and just hands off the entire time.
Yeah, one of the things that I preach now, I work with a lot of operators, both as a co-host or as a consultant. One of the things that I tell my operators, which is one of the things that I just mentioned and you confirmed, is that as an operator, you cannot wear all hats. You have to work with your strength and hire out or integrate or automate your weaknesses, right? And that's one of the things that I loved about Hostfully from the very beginning. As I mentioned, they didn't try to be the end-all be-all. They tried to be very, very good on some specific things like the channel manager, like the digital guidebook, and integrate and partner up with experts in their specific fields, right? I'm sure everyone's heard the riches are in the niches, right? If you niche down and get very, very good at on one specific thing, you're going to succeed and have a chance to succeed far better and greater than if you try to do it all, right? So that part is one of the reasons why when I started looking at Hostfully, because I had options to go other areas, I wanted a expert in the specific things that my company needed, and that's what I found with Hostfully. So having said that, and staying on the tech aspect of it, How do you think Hostfully helps managers scale?
So it's with the time that we're going to give you back, essentially, if that makes sense.
Yes,
So
100%.
yeah, so even let's say like for those of you that have 1 to 2 properties and you want to scale to 10 to 20 to 30, we have a really good case study. That we had somebody that started Hostfully with 3 listings and then grew to 30 in like a year. But the main 2 things is, as we mentioned earlier, is get your automation set. So just keep on chugging. This way you have time to scale. The biggest shift happens when you move from doing everything manually, similar to what Fernando was doing, to building systems that can help you scale. Even with just 1 or 2 listings, I would say still sign up for a property management software. Because once you have 1 or 2 listings and you start scaling, by the time you have 6, 7, 8, learning and building a property management software is going to be so much more daunting than if you just did it with 1 or 2 listings. Right. So put those tools in place. I would recommend a property management software to start, looking at a dynamic pricing tool, and then like a solid cleaning process. So this way, as I mentioned, as you grow, you're not starting from scratch every single time. Technology should be your teammate. I'm a 70-year-old in my soul, so saying that tech should be a teammate and not a last minute fix means a lot. You want to really leverage the tech stack that you have. Most importantly, however, I think aside from the tech stack is changing your own mindset and your own mentality on your approach to your business overall. And here at Hostfully, we have a ton of those success stories, and a majority of them, if not all of them, is that the property manager started thinking like a business owner and not just a host. So they were taking the next step and they changed their mentality, and they're like, you know what, I have 1 or 2 listings. If I grow, that's fine. No, if you want to scale, you have to be like, all right, I have 1 or 2 listings. Now I have to do X, Y, and Z in order to start scaling. And that is building your tech stack. So if that answered your question, Fernando.
Yeah, no, it answered it perfectly.
Yeah.
That's it. That I mean, the 2 things you said there are extremely important. Number 1, changing your mindset. It's paramount, regardless of what system you have.
Yep.
If you don't have the correct mindset, man, you're going to struggle. It's going to be very, very difficult to succeed in anything you do without that proper mindset. And then the other thing you mentioned is that partnership, right? Being strategic with that partnership. I 1000% agree. So tell me expand on that a little bit. What's the importance of a strategic partnership with as an STR operator?
Yeah, and part of me we don't integrate with everyone. We're really intentional about this. When choosing a partner or an integration, mostly focused on integration, but also what we've seen now with my new role is we're also integrating with partners, specific podcasts, certain webinars. Like, we're being very intentional with the people that we choose to work with. But for the tech stack, we look for tools that bring real value to our users, first and foremost. Whether that's going to be to improve efficiency, driving your revenue, or even enhancing the guest experience, that's first and foremost, is what value is it going to bring to our users. But then go for it.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, but we also, in addition to that, is we look for companies that share our commitment and our innovation for customer success. So tools that bring value, and then the companies that share our commitment to innovation. Integration quality also matters. So our our API, which I've mentioned earlier, is one of the most robust in the industry. So like I said, we want to partner with those who are ready to build with us, to innovate with us, to grow with us, and offer a smooth user experience. And we really consider where the industry is headed as well. We're betting big on automation. But for automation, you want to still keep that personalization and the sustainability. So we're always on the lookout for forward-thinking partners, specifically in those areas.
Yeah, Hostfully recently invited me to be a guest speaker at the Booking.com conference
in
Miami on Click. And
you got to hang out with my boy Pablo, hey?
Yes, I did. Yes, it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool. I had a good time, but it talked. One of the things that we were talking about, and one of the things that you just mentioned, which is important, is having that smooth integration capability with the partner, right? And let me take a step back real quick and expand a little bit more on partnership. I 1000% agree with you when you say, be careful not necessarily be careful who you partner with, but understand that when you partner with someone, there has to be that give and take, right? You have to provide value to that partnership, as well as have that value returned back to you. And I'm going to speak on Booking.com. In the beginning, when Booking.com and Hostfully had or started being added to the the channels managers, right? That integration wasn't great. There really was. It was the API connection wasn't that great. We had a lot of issues with that. But to Hostfully's credit and to credit Booking.com, they realized that there was a big problem, and they worked on getting that fixed. And today, I got to say, Booking.com went from the worst company or OTA that I wanted to advertise on to being the number 2 and 3 OTAs for me to advertise on today. And speaking with Pablo and some of the guys in that integration department with Hostfully, I applaud them, because some of the stuff that they're doing with these OTAs is huge for us. And that Booking.com one was probably one of the biggest in terms of revenue and in terms of making the communication process, not only with the guests, but also with the OTA, making that simpler, easier, and more efficient is extremely valuable to us. So again, thank you, and to Hostfully, thank you to Booking.com for making that happen, because it was a huge improvement, and an improvement that happened very quickly. Because
because you have both sides that have the same vision. Like we have Eric. Eric was at the Booking.com one as well, and he knows Booking.com inside and out. David, our co-founder and president, he was on the board, or maybe he still is, or he's affiliated in one way or another, just to ensure that we're all on track and that we're all have this vision of getting this specific channel, which has caused some challenges, to be improved and to generate revenue tenfold for users. So that's a perfect example.
Yeah. So go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's funny though. Like I always get on demos, I get asked all the time. It's like, what's the one integration that I need? Like, what's the one integration that is going to make me the most money, or going to give me the most impact? And it's always it's hard to pick just one. It's impossible to pick just one, because it really all depends on that. Oh, I don't know what I just did with my hat. It all depends on, that specific property manager and that property management software. The property manager's needs, their ability to grow and to learn, their daily operation and their approach to their operation. But what's really been a game changer for our users is the ability to connect Hostfully with a variety of tools and integrations.
Yeah, correct. I'm going to put you on the spot because it is difficult. But if you were to pick 3 things that a new short-term rental operator, there's going to be a similar question later on, but since you brought this up, 3 things that a new short-term rental operator, needs in terms of integration. What would be the top 3?
So again, depends on the property management, the property manager and their process. But definitely aside from a property management software or in addition to a property management software?
Well, good question. Let's do it in addition.
In addition to. Definitely.
Because the property management software is the most important part for me. So let's add to that.
Yeah. First off, and I'm trying to think in terms like holistically, I would say I'm torn between 2 right now. I'll do both right now. No priority. Definitely a dynamic pricing tool. Because what they do is they do the homework for you. They look at the market. They look at the trends. They look how your specific market is pacing and how it should price accordingly. And there's some really good dynamic pricing tools out there. And we work with a majority, if not all of them. The next one, and I think that this is I want to say it's the most underutilized, is a digital guidebook. Now, I'm not saying that because I'm with Hostfully and that I use a digital guidebook or that we sell a digital guidebook. Actually, before let's do dynamic pricing. We'll save the digital guidebook for last. Dynamic pricing and then guest communication. I think we can really benefit from that. And with the automation in general is a lifesaver. So with tools like automated messaging and digital guidebooks, like you can answer those questions before guests even think to ask it. We now have a ton of integrations with AI. Each one offers a different benefit, but I would start looking into those because it will automate your communication. Now, Hostfully automates a ton of communication. Yeah. Integration with like Conduit or HostBuddy AI or one of those guys, they're going to elevate your automation. And once you elevate it, you still keep that level of hospitality and personalization where it doesn't feel like an automation, which is important to consider as well. So some sort of automated messaging with AI, if you need it, but majority of people do because it just elevates and sets you apart from your competitors in the market. So dynamic pricing tools, some sort of AI contribution, cleaning and turnover management would be another one as well. We integrate with some pretty awesome softwares out there, differ in price, differ in capabilities. Again, the one property listing doesn't need as much TLC as 1,000 property management company. So it's contingent on that. But with the cleaning and turnover management, you automate that. You communicate that. The second a listing is cleaned, the property manager, will get notified, and then the guest would then be able to check in. If they want an early arrival, you'll have communication. You'll set up checklists on what the housekeepers or the cleaners need to do for the unit prior to releasing it to the inventory. There's really a lot out there. And the reason I'm kind of all over the place with it is because I don't want the listeners to be like, okay, I need dynamic pricing tool, I need cleaning and turnover, and I need AI. You don't need them, but it's ultimately I would suggest take a look at your operations and see where you're missing it. See what's causing you the most stress and the most anxiety and the most frustration and wasting the most of your time. If that's cleaning and turnover management, if it's dynamic pricing, let that be your number one. But there are integrations, there's software throughout the industry that, and we integrate with all of them. So it makes it easy.
So before I ask you that question, I wrote down, I don't know if you can see that. I wrote down right there. I put pricing, you mentioned, the digital guidebook, you mentioned, and operations, right? Those,
there you go.
Those are the add-ons that, and you're correct in saying that you may not necessarily need in the beginning, but 1000%, if you're managing 1,000 properties or you're managing hundreds of properties like I am, you're going to need those. And the reason I put, and I'm going to expand on the fact on the digital guidebook, and again, not just because Hostfully has a phenomenal digital guidebook, but the importance of that digital guidebook for you guys to understand. One of the best things that Hostfully did was integrate using AI that digital guidebook. So the more you add on to a property's digital guidebook, the better AI will work. So if you get a question that is not a frequently asked question, but as long as it's in that AI and that digital guidebook, AI is going to recognize that and answer that automatically, right? That speeds up communication, gives a better guest experience. And I can tell you that since we implemented AI, our reviews have gotten better, and AI actually answers questions better than my staff does. My staff, again, it's difficult for a human to remember every property, especially when they're not visiting that property all the time. So it's different when a question's asked. A lot of times that manager needs to log in to that property, review that information, and then answer the question, which takes time. Whereas when it's implemented in the digital guidebook already, you do it once, and AI recognizes the question and the answer and answers it instantaneously. You have a better workflow. So that's why I put those three. And again, like Frank said, it's not something that you have to have, but it is that cherry on the top. It is that one thing that's going to make you stand out from every other operator out there. So I like that. Anything else you want to add to that?
Yeah, no, and just kind of staying on the topic of guidebooks is, I would believe our guidebooks is probably the feature that gets the most underutilization. Right. I highly recommend. I mean, we offer a free guidebook. Kick the tires, test it out, try it out. It's also not very expensive. But a lot of our operators still rely on printed instructions, basic email templates with a lot of information on there that's a bit overwhelming at times, or even a lot of them still create their own Canva guidebook, which is great. But our guidebooks can automate so much of the guest experience, from check-in instructions to house rules. You could upsell and generate more revenue by recommending and upselling local services. It really is a power tool that saves you time and just helps boost your guest satisfaction. And with better guest satisfaction, you get better reviews. And when you get better reviews, you get more reservations. When you have more reservations, you get more money. And when you get more money, you get more, properties. Like, it's a nice little domino effect that you get. But there's also the opportunity. And I know you work with Viator, Fernando. It's a property manager can make commission off the activities which their guests make via Viator by using our guidebooks. So our guidebooks integrate directly with Viator. So if somebody sees $100, it'll be nice if it's only $100, but like $100 catamaran cruise around the bay. Okay, you just made $8 for $100 ticket. But you're doing that while you sleep. So once operators, in full transparency, once you're set up and you start using it, you're going to wonder how you've ever managed without it. Of course, you have to get it set up, and there's some, things to connect, and it's tech. But instead of fielding, even like you get those same questions, like what's the Wi-Fi code? What's the, where can I find, how do you work the jacuzzi? That's like the number one thing. Instead of fielding that same question over and over, you can send an automatic, personalized, beautiful guidebook that covers everything that the guest will need to know for their specific stay. I mean, it reduces the guest messages. It sets up you for 5-star reviews, and it just eliminates this stress factor that you can avoid by using the guidebooks.
Yeah, I can't express enough how important that digital guidebook is, and I 1000% agree with you. It is very underutilized. As an operator, though, selfishly, I'm glad a lot of operators don't use it, because it helps me stand out.
Great way to look at it.
Yeah, and I will say this, because I actually talked about this recently in STR. I believe I talked about it in STR News, or I just recently had a conversation. So our upsales, and it's a direct result of our digital guidebook, but our upsell revenue today exceeds our revenue from our rentals. I need you guys to really let that sink in. We make more money in upsales than we do in commissions with our rentals. If you're, from that standpoint alone, if you're not sold on it, I hope that sold you on it. In fact, in terms of revenue, it is 3 times more than what we generate in commissions. So
that's impressive. That's awesome.
Yeah, we when we sat down and looked at the numbers and some of the stuff we're doing now, to be completely transparent, there's a lot of stuff that we monetize that a lot of people don't, and I stole from the hotel industry. I mean, we have an insurance waiver that I stole from rental cars companies. When you go there and you get insurance, we sell
strategic. That. Well done.
Yeah. So there's a lot that I've learned throughout my time in this industry that I learned to monetize. And believe you me, I monetize every aspect of this business. So anyways, that's a cool plus, and that's why I think, and I had digital guidebook as my number 2, because
just to kind of go back, because you did mention how you kind of touched on the hotel industry, on your experiences with them to improve the guest experience. I read somewhere, and I didn't even have to read it because it's so obvious now, and I'm curious at what you experience with your guests. But guests today specifically want, even though they don't want to stay in a hotel in a room that costs $700 a night, and they want to stay at a short-term rental, they're still expecting hotel level experience and hotel level service. So that means smooth communication, easy, seamless check-in, clear house instructions, great local recommendations upon their request, like having their own concierge. They want you to essentially anticipate their needs, and that was a big thing in the luxury hotel industry, especially when I worked for the Ritz-Carlton. It was anticipating the guest's needs. That was everything. And the property managers who are able to deliver that level of experience at scale, those are the ones who are standing out and crushing the market. And your setup and the stats that you just shared is a true testament to putting a guidebook in place and anticipating a guest expectations.
Yeah, I mean, that's gold information you just gave everyone, because I've been preaching that.
Great minds think alike, Fernando.
Yeah, because the STR industry, in the beginning, a lot of people made the mistake, and even Airbnb themselves made the mistake of trying to separate themselves from the hotel industry. And I never did that, because I understood from the very beginning that meeting expectations, just like in any, I'm gonna regress here for a second, because I'm gonna talk about meeting expectations, right? I've been married for a very long time. I've taken countless of marriage, or been to countless marriage conferences, and we talked a lot about relationships in general. And many relationships fail because one or the other, sometimes both, come into a relationship with certain expectations, and those expectations aren't necessarily met. That's why the people have issues, right? The same applies to customer service. A customer goes into a short-term rental with a certain type of expectation that, like it or not, they're getting from the hotel industry. Just rough numbers off the bat, and I talked about this in the STR News podcast that we just did on Wednesday. Currently today, there's a lot of issues, and I'm going to use Spain as an example. There's been a lot of pushback in Spain, specifically Barcelona, against short-term rentals, because they're blaming short-term rentals for a lot of the issues with over-tourism and housing, right? But it is, people see that and they have a certain expectations of a short-term rental, but in reality, the majority of people, this is why I love this industry, because there's still a huge potential for growth. Over 80% of all visitors into Barcelona visit Barcelona and stay in a hotel. That's 80%. That's a huge number. So, and there's still a huge number of people that never actually booked a short-term rental. So there's a lot of opportunity there for short-term rental operators, but you have to focus on the hospitality side, because people are going to book your place, especially if it's a first-time short-term rental guest, with the expectation that they're going to get hotel-style services. So, I mean, I love that you say that, because not enough people are talking about that, and that's where I think this industry has dropped the ball. And it's in general. I mean, today people are realizing that, but in the very beginning, Airbnb went out of their way to say we're not hotels, So yeah, it's a very difficult sell when you get someone when you still have the majority of people that haven't even booked a short-term rental. So that's pretty cool. Thank you for sharing that, because that's very important, and one of the areas that I think we as short-term rental operators can definitely improve on.
Yeah, I always say we have to bring the hospitality back to the hospitality industry. And I think, again, like I mentioned, that's what sets you apart from your competition. You could have the same exact house or the same exact apartment, and the one that is anticipating needs, has automation, has a software, has a plan and process, automating, messages to send to the guest before, during, and after a reservation. That listing is going to be so much more successful than ones that's just listed on Airbnb, heads in beds, spend the night, check out the next day, clean, and turn over. There's guests they're craving experience. It's not going away. So if you could leverage your technology in order to execute that, why not? And I mean, kind of going back, and I know the trend lately has been AI, but AI is what could possibly get you there. And it's really what's shaping the future, in my opinion, of the short-term rental industry. Like, look at us 2 years ago. We were barely talking about it. We're talking about automation. We weren't talking about AI, but we're already seeing it in action with our specific integrative partners, and even our own software. Now, Hostfully has something called the Inbox AI, where we can suggest an answer, and it takes a huge load off by managing guest messages across all the platforms. And once the property manager is managing these messages, that property manager or that host can now focus on the bigger picture. And honestly, it's just a start. And I think we'll see AI powering even like smarter dynamic pricing, predicting like specific like maintenance tasks, just based on the guest's like profile. And even what we've also been looking at is automatically suggesting local spots or upsells based on the guest preference or like past behavior. So if Frank and Jules, my wife, and our 2 kids stayed with you last year and we asked for a crib or some fun beach activities to keep our kids occupied, you can automate that next time. This way, Frank doesn't even have to ask. And if you walk in, maybe a crib's not the best because, you know, a year can change.
Right.
But year over year, if that same request, if you see that over and over, you're like, all right, that's perfect example is, you know, if you're allergic to feathers, right? Frank's allergic to feathers. And he asked on his last day to switch. Put that in his profile. The next time Frank stays with you and you have hyperallergenic pillows in your unit, that's it. Frank's giving you a 5-star review. Like, I don't have to ask. I don't have to wait. I don't have to coordinate with the property manager. Oh, we're going to the beach. We'll be back in 2 hours. It just alleviates. It alleviates that. So it's all about just working smarter, saving time, creating those just really thoughtful, memorable stays that keep the guests coming back. And you do that with the guidebook, with AI, with a property management software, just so you can automate it and focus your efforts elsewhere.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, AI is here to stay. I mean, I did a whole video on what Airbnb is doing with AI. So let me ask you another question along, because you kind of touched on it, but I want you to expand a little bit on it.
Yeah.
And that is, right now, what trends is Hostfully is all in on? What are they betting on and putting all their chips in?
So you would think it's AI, but it's not. Well, no, it kind of is in terms of like a feature development approach. A lot of it is just automation and AI. But the biggest trend, again, and we've touched on this a bunch already, I'm seeing right now is just the short-term rental space is specifically the push towards professionalism. So it doesn't matter if you're managing like 5 properties or 500 properties, there's a growing expectation because all of the software out there around consistency, service, and even like the smart use of technology, people are experiencing that at other listings and they expect you to have that at your listing. But again, it's having that expectation of like hotel level experience, and just really finding the right partners and integrations in an effort to execute that. So yes, I mean, kind of 2 answers is building our tech stack and our integration zone, but also focused on AI and how we can just give you back time in your day. Cause I think that's the hardest part, right? Is like finding the time to execute all that.
Okay. Last question on Hostfully before we kind of shift, because we're coming towards the end here. What can you tell us that that Hostfully is secretly working behind the scenes to introduce to us operators in the near future?
There's a lot in the pipeline. It's all contingent on what our customers are asking about. So we have something cool. It's called user voice, where all of our users have the opportunity to voice the product or the feature that they want. Off the top of my head, I can't think of any. I'll get back to you guys on that one. Maybe, okay. Maybe in like in the blurb, we could do like a stay tuned for Frank's answer or something.
Yeah.
I'll find out. It's really cool. We have a product release form and there's just a whole bunch of stuff on there. But what's really cool and just kind of backtracking is our inbox AI. So we automatically suggest an answer. That was a request on a lot of our users. We executed it. Multi-unit has been huge because now a lot of the industry is going towards that like renovated motel or having like inventory. of the same room, but on the website, you just want to show one room type, but on the back end, you have about 10 units. Multi-unit has been huge. MTR, monthly, why is it escaping me? Monthly rentals, not MTR. Monthly rentals are another trend that a lot of people are seeing and wanting to get into, and we're slowly growing features on the back end on Hostfully that we can execute more monthly rental listings. Right now, we do really well. We have a bunch of guys, a bunch of clients that have monthly rentals, and they're using our software seamlessly to execute those. But like, we really want to integrate with like, right now we're integrated with Home Ads. They do monthly rentals, but like Furnish Finders, all those guys out there, like that's kind of something that we've been really interested in growing, is our monthly rental features and capabilities to accommodate that kind of industry and that kind of market as well.
Yeah, and there's a necessity for that. I mean, I've tried, I'm connected to Furnish Finder, I'm connected to Home Ads. I just have not found any success with any of those. In fact, very, very, very limited. I mean, it's extremely. I was surprised, because you would think with Furnish Finder, and when it first came out, it did well, but it was as a result of COVID. But since then, it hasn't done well at all.
But that kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier. Like, it depends on the property management company and the market in which you're located. Like, there's some markets, which one was it? I forget. Like, city centers do so well with midterm rentals. The Carolinas, Florida, I'm surprised, but the Carolinas, a lot of people are moving down north to stay in the Carolinas while their houses are being built. So they need monthly rentals, or they're coming down to the Carolinas to test out a neighborhood or an area to see if they like it. They stay with you for a month, and then they move on to the next state. So we've seen a huge influx in midterm rental requests. So I think it is always contingent on the area in which you're located.
Yeah, I mean, we don't. Maybe I kind of misspoke. We get a lot of monthly rentals. We get a lot of them. In fact, we have a few properties that are only monthly because the HOA only allows.
Oh yeah, well yeah. Now, especially with the regulations and the restrictions.
Right.
Yeah.
But we're getting them from the traditional OTAs, from Airbnb, Booking, Vrbo. We're just not, the other platforms are just not taking off.
The platform specifically. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean. The platform specifically. They're not taking off like I hope they would have, because the majority of my monthly rentals are still coming from Airbnb and Vrbo. So go ahead.
No, I said that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this question. Let me see which. I'm going to ask you a few more questions, but one that I like you to give me some insight in is what's in what you've seen with top performing STL operators. What do you think attributed to their success taking out the PMS system?
Taking out the property management system. Repeat that one more time. I'm trying to figure like who it would have been.
So on like you mentioned one success story and from the people from the short-term rental operators that you have worked with.
Yeah.
They have, everything that we talked about, the PMS system, the digital guidebook.
Okay. They're still on it. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. They have that already, but some people have that and don't see the success as others. What do you think it's that reason that they implemented this stuff, but they're still not seeing success or having the success that you think they would, versus another person that implemented the system but is having phenomenal success? What do you think is the difference there?
I would say going back to the mentality. think about yourself as an entrepreneur instead of just a host. That's going to change everything. Over the past 5 years, I've seen a ton of notable users that one of the coolest things actually that I've seen on the platform is how hosts turned their operations into these impressive, just well-oiled, fully hands-off machines. Now I'm talking about hosts who've like dialed in automation, smart locks, upsells. I think that's the thing too, is somebody's like, oh, I don't want all of those integrations. I don't want all of that software, but I'll just do dynamic pricing and I'll make money that way. There's only so much you can do with increasing your rate over a period of time to generate more revenue. You can upsell. And if, similar to what you mentioned earlier, Fernando, like there's a lot of opportunity there. You could generate some significant money by thinking out the box. And I would say upselling and the opportunity to upsell is underutilized as well. There's one in, where is he? Not Texas. Oh, Arizona, for example. So he manages 5 properties, but he also works like a full-time job. A lot of the short-term rental folks that I meet are trying to get away from their full-time job. This guy loves his full-time job. He's never leaving his full-time job. He just wants to make some more money. So, so with Hostfully, what he does is over the years, he set up his workflow so that the moment a booking comes in, and this is not necessarily the upselling portion. This is him just utilizing our features and capabilities. And what I've seen to be the most successful it was this guy being like, all right, I have a full-time job, but I'm still going to crush my listings. And again, it's 5 listings, which is it's going to keep you busy. But the workflow that he executed was pretty impressive. And it's impressive, but it's just so simple that the moment a booking comes in, the guest instantly gets a customized email saying, hey, thank you for booking. However, what he does is he includes the digital guidebook with the property info, the login recommendations, the check-in instructions. Then what he does after that, he time messages to go out automatically. So you get one before arrival, one during your stay. So like, hey, Frank, just checking in, wondering how your stay is going. Should you require any assistance, I'm here to help. That one you send out right as the guest checks in, or like an hour or two after the guest gets settled, and you've already set the bar. Like, hey, I'm here for you. I'm looking out. And then that kind of speaks throughout the entire stay. And then at the end was one asking for a review after checkout. So like a day after checkout. Just like, here's all the links, because now you can put a review on like 1,000 things. So even providing them with the link. But then what he does, and with Hostfully, this is actually one of the requests that we got from our users, was creating a complex condition where you can send an email X amount of days after the guest checks out, just being like, hey, we miss you. We'd love to welcome you back. Here's my direct booking website. Here's a discount code, which you can create on Hostfully side if you book with us directly. And you send that to them however long you want, 30 days, 90 days, 120 days, just so they can remember. What a lot of users have done is while they stay with you, they're offering you a discounted rate to stay with them again, same time next year. So that was a cool thing that this specific individual in Arizona did, especially for this family that stayed with him year over year. But now that all those automations and the communication is together, meanwhile, all that is happening, his cleaner gets a task assigned through, in this case, he uses Breezeway. The second a guest leaves, he gets a notification and he barely has to touch anything. So there's the communication the communication, the automation of communication is important. But what's even more important is the personalization in the communication. It gets confused sometimes in my head, but it's just personalization. We got to focus on that and really making it a memorable stay and enhancing the guest stay that way.
That guy's probably one of my clients.
Probably.
Because we do exactly that. So let's finish this off with a couple of personal questions for you. Are you more of a beach house vacation type of person or a mountain cabin type of person?
So my wife and I go back, we flip-flop a lot because we're in the Carolinas. So we have the beach 2 hours away and we have the mountains an hour and a half, 2 hours away. So we're like, which one do we like more? But we always say beach. We always go back to the beach. You just give me some ocean waves, Corona Light with lime, Kenny Chesney playlist, and I am set.
I love it.
Yeah, we go to Oak Island every summer. We have friends that have houses there, but we also book short-term rentals every year.
Next question. What is the one travel experience you think everyone should have?
So I say this because it's out of my comfort zone, but it's something that's on my bucket list. And for those individuals that have done it, I've seen a lot of just joy and pride and just this level of confidence that exudes out of them after they do it. Funny, however, you should ask, because our president and our co-founder, David, he just took a 15-month sabbatical to travel the world with his family. I could never do that. I'm too type A, I'm too OCD, but hey, they're doing it. But it could even be like a solo trip somewhere totally unfamiliar. So there's just something empowering about landing in a new place without a plan, just exploring, tasting local food and the repercussions that may come from it, getting lost in the city the best way possible, and just meeting people you never would have crossed paths with otherwise. It just pushes you out of your comfort zone and reminds you how adventurous you can be and how much there is to this world. It's on my bucket list, and my personality right now, at least, is not allowing me to do it. But maybe when the kids are older, my wife and I will do it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I every May, there's a tradition in my family. Every May, we pick a destination and we just go.
Yeah, I remember you were telling me about it. Yeah, where did you go this summer or this past one?
We went to mainly the Alps. So we went to Switzerland, Germany, Austria, and France. But we did the Alps, and we did, with the exception of Munich, we hit cities and towns that are not super known.
Yes.
And it was a phenomenal experience, especially Switzerland. There's so many little villages in the Alps that most people never visited or even heard of that are just gorgeous. I mean, we had a phenomenal time. And we did it. We biked the majority of the time.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, we biked through the mountains. Funny story. Anybody ever been to Interlaken? You'll know what I'm talking about. There's a place in Interlaken called the 72 Waterfalls. And from the city center there, it's about, I think it's about 2,000 meters straight up. And so we went there. On the way there, I'm like, man, I think I bit off more than I can chew. And I am a cyclist. And I'm looking back, I'm like, these people are going to kill me when we get up there. It was a tough climb. But it was an experience that we're never going to experience anywhere else in the world. Because when you go on a bike and you choose bike trails, it takes you off the beaten path. So you get to see stuff that people don't see because people normally drive up there. And we saw waterfalls that are not well known, but were gorgeous, beautiful. But I always say those, especially those that follow me, and I put out a lot of travel itineraries and a lot of travel destinations and a lot of stuff that I do. but I always said, hey, if you're a stationary person, I'm not for you, because I do nothing stationary. So,
but that's a memory. You came back a different person, right? Like you came back with like more experience, more confidence, you know? So that's the one thing like that I would recommend everyone to do. Get off the beaten path.
Yeah, I love it. All right, we're going to close with that question because I thought that was a great ending. Frank, I love you, brother.